My relationship with drawing from reference is a little bit strained, but it seems we will be reconnecting once again. With so many ideas in my head that I want to get out, art often is my way of getting out my emotions, calming me down, and keeping me sane. And drawing from reference with no greater purpose than just to draw can kind of feel like a waste. Basically, what I'm saying is I think drawing from reference and I have kind of a strained relationship, but we're working through it. So join me once again in my bathroom as I once again try and figure out my weird relationship with art. Peachtober Day 10. The prompt was pet, and I may be starting to sound like a broken record, but I had an idea I was pretty excited about, something creative, something bigger than this singular drawing. But since planning too big and expecting too much from my Peachtober drawings has seemed to be my downfall during the challenge, I decided to take, I guess, what would be the easy route and scrap that idea and draw something easier and something from reference. Audra Auclair, who is an incredible artist, she posted this scruffy cat on her story, and I screenshotted it knowing I was going to draw it eventually. Even though it's not my pet, I figured today would be the perfect day to draw it. My main intention with this piece was to experiment with sketching loosely, sketching with different pen sizes, the difference between painting first versus inking first, and honestly, I'm really happy with how this little sketch came out. I actually kind of love the final result, so I'm going to let the footage play while I talk some more about drawing from reference and my relationship to it. Now, I loved creating my whole life, but as I discussed in older videos, I started taking it more seriously as something I loved and that I wanted to improve in around mid-high school, where in Quebec that made me around 15. At the time, mostly inspired by online artists who created portraits, I got super obsessed with learning how to draw faces, and there was really like an innocence about the way I was learning and slowly improving. If you want to know more about how I improved, I have a whole video about that, so you can go watch that if you're curious. I drew faces every single day. Random celebrities, random people online, people in the street, myself. Slowly, my style was evolving to include, more stories within the drawings, and I started throwing in some plants, and then I experimented with line work, slowly improving what I was capable of translating with just a face. Within enough time, I had sort of developed an artistic voice, and part of what I prided myself on with creating artworks was being able to create a final piece that looked good with a reference photo that was unrecognizable, or better yet, not using a reference photo at all. I had my comfort zone, which was drawing my own face, because I felt pretty comfortable distorting it beyond recognition. Like, all these pieces on the screen right now were inspired by my face, even if you can't recognize it. And that was what I prided myself on, being able to create something that nobody could tie back to a reference photo. Long gone were the days of wanting to improve my portrait skills. All I wanted was to put on some music, get out my thoughts, and essentially use my sketchbook as a journal that only future me could understand what it meant, because current me was really just drawing whatever came to mind, slowly building up a story without realizing. This worked well, until I started to develop a vision for final pieces. I had spent so much time just letting go, letting loose, definitely not drawing every day, but drawing when I knew I had something to draw and I wouldn't ruin a page in my sketchbook. Nowadays, I have a skill I both love and hate, which is a form of, foreplanning or foresight. I don't know how to explain it further than I know what I want to create when before, in the past, I was just going in blindly. And, I did love my work back then, but I remember watching artists online who were creating products, stickers, clothing, basically anything other than a print of their work. And I was realizing that if I want to do that, I want to be able to plan out some pieces because, then I can have the product I have in my mind. I don't know if that makes sense, but it would require somewhat of a cleaner final result. And so with time, my creativity evolved by what I was seeing and what I wanted to create in a way that combined these ideas that came out naturally with final pieces that could look more clean. At least that was my vision. To be clear, I wasn't going for a full 180 and trying to create digital, perfect, vectorized drawings. I love some artists that do that. It's just not for me. Anywho, so naturally, without thinking, my vision of what I wanted my art to look like changed. And for so long, my process was just put color down on paper and something would come out. And like I said in my last videos, I really do love the art that I create when I draw like that. But nowadays, I have so many ideas I'm really excited about drawing that are more complex or even more simple, but basically they're just more thought out. And my creating process and my relationship to references, which was essentially non-existent before, made it pretty difficult to translate ideas in my head to a piece that has the same energy as my old works. That was, my old works were freely done and blindly done, basically. I just went into it with no ideas. How do I translate that feeling and the excitement of creating art into something with more of a plan? I think, though, I love my work created with no reference, or the work where I shift the reference beyond recognition, and I will still create like this all the time because that's just how I draw naturally. I don't think my current ideas are ready to be created that way. I think I'm gonna need references, because drawing from reference is how you learn the skills necessary to draw without reference. It's how you learn your art style, since you're translating an image, and what you're viewing, you're able to translate because you're not trying to pull something from your head, And it's going to teach me the skills I'm currently lacking in with my art mediums that I didn't learn by creating freely. Day 11. We are currently out of fingers to keep up, but day 11 was egg, and to follow with yesterday, I just wanted to try drawing from reference. But this time we're using a medium I'm less comfortable with, so I returned to acrylic paint. The idea was pretty simple. I just wanted to draw a little chick trying to stay in his egg that he has outgrown, because I had written the voiceover for my day 6 video, which is all about feeling like I'm outgrowing my art style. Though I had visions with this piece of a certain style, once again, I decided to stick somewhat close to the lessons I learned the day before and just try drawing from the reference and see what comes out. I swear I literally drew from the first result on Google for chick, and I forgot to mention, but I actually painted over my day 1 attempt for home, which I never really paint over or rip out pages from my sketchbook. But as I explained in that video, or, what you may be understanding from this one, is that Peachtober has given me kind of a challenge. So there's been a few pages that I don't love. Once again, I like how this piece came out. I think it's cute. I think it's one of my best attempts with acrylic, and overall, I like the style I used with the paints. But despite all that, I have an issue, which is that I've trained myself to expect more complicated pieces. And yeah, it was fun to paint the chick. It's cute. I like it. I think it taught me stuff with acrylics, and in the long run, it'll be helpful. But I like creating art to get my ideas out. And with so many ideas in my head, it can feel like kind of a waste to draw a chick, especially one like not stylized or special. I don't know if that makes sense, and that's not a dig at all at people who draw from reference or anything. I have so many days where I just have trouble coming up with an idea, but I feel like creating, and often I turn to drawing animals or a portrait or something simple from reference. And sometimes those pages end up being my favorite pages, like this pig page that I painted, and I think it's one of my best watercolor pieces, and that day I just sketched for fun because I couldn't sleep. But today was not a day where I had no ideas. It was a day where I had hundreds of ideas for the prompt and for other pieces and for future pieces. And worst of all, I had ideas for previous pieces that I wanted to change or that I didn't like the final result of. So I swear I have not created one final piece of art during this challenge that made me, fully satisfied. And so all I want to do is go back and fix those. But here I am drawing a chick on a day where I really want to translate my emotions further. And so I think that's why it can feel like kind of a waste. Looking back, it is kind of funny because I've already thought of a few ways I could use this chick drawing in more complicated pieces that translate something I want to say. But that's not the point. The point is that I really shouldn't have such a big problem drawing from reference. Not every piece needs to be filled with emotions or complicated or a product or clean or even good. And hey, this sketch is pretty good as far as I'm concerned, and if nothing else, it kind of reminded me that I do have some kind of skill with painting and creating in general, since I've felt pretty disconnected, as if I'm no longer skilled in art after these past few days of Peachtober. I almost in some ways envy the innocent 15-year-old me with lots of ideas who was okay with just drawing portraits every day for the sake of improving, and I just think that's what I need right now. And for some reason I think I need some kind of blip or pause in time so I can focus on leveling up, as if the world is waiting to see what I create next and every piece needs to be creative or complicated or emotional, and it doesn't. A little spoiler, because I did write this voiceover from the future, I will continue to mess this up and feel frustrated and disappointed, but what I'm trying to say is that I now know that I need to spend some time leveling up and drawing from reference and all that jazz so I can get back to a place where I can translate my emotions with no thought into searching up images, and I need to draw from reference so I can be okay doing so, because that's how you create more complicated pieces, because the way I create art has changed. So I think what I'm going to try and do is keep a messy sketchbook where I can sketch out all those emotion-filled good ideas that I would like to draw one day, and I don't have to be in a rush to create them, except for the fact that I will keep coming up with new ideas every day, but other than that, I can come back to these ideas whenever I feel like it. Right now, I need to regain my confidence with art and redevelop my style and process to match the current visions in my head. I will now try to summarize this convoluted and incohesive video, though anyone who's made it this far, I hope you kind of get what I'm saying. I have a negative relationship with drawing from reference, and at some point in creating, I developed this notion that every single piece I make has to be heartfelt and emotional and mean something to me, especially if I have all these ideas in my head. And it doesn't need to be. As if the peaceful process of creating art wasn't a good enough reason to create, I needed to translate all the thoughts and anxieties and emotions onto a page to get them out. And I still want to do that. I still want to create with what I have in my head, but right now I recognize that I kind of just need to level up my skills and regain my confidence with creating, and not be so afraid of creating simple pieces from reference, because references are helpful, and it's dumb to avoid them. I like how these 2 days turned out, drawn from reference, and I like how the previous 2 days of Peachtober turned out, which were drawn loosely and trusting my own abilities to draw without reference. And mostly, I just want to be able to merge the two, because I like creating loosely and trusting my own abilities to create, but I also like having something to refer to be able to fully translate what's in my head, because sometimes you don't know how to draw everything. Because really, a reference photo will only benefit me by allowing me to translate my thoughts clearer. So I shouldn't think it'll negatively impact my work, it's only going to positively impact it, right? Hopefully this video helped you. I don't know if anybody else has this weird relationship with drawing from reference, but regardless, thank you if you made it this far in. Kind of funny, I tried yesterday to edit this video without talking at all and just put a lo-fi beat over, and it drove me crazy because I had so much to say on the topic that I couldn't export it like that. And so here we are. Feel free to subscribe for more long-form rambles about art, and if you want a no explanation version of my art, because my brain doesn't shut off so I can't seem to do that, you can go check out my art on my Instagram, which will be linked down below. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.